This comes as Trump's legal team says he will not testify or provide any statement at the trial. Joining me now to weigh in on this is Trump's legal team member, American Center for Law and Justice Executive Director and Newsmax contributor, Jordan Sekulow. Mr. Sekulow, welcome back.
Hey, Chris.
I'm convinced that the spectacle that this proceeding is a distraction from Biden's anti-American policies in Yemen, his anti-American policies at the border, massive irresponsible spending that the Democrats are cramming down our throat. I mean,
Right.
The idea that you can impeach a private citizen is absolutely ludicrous, is it not?
It is absolutely ludicrous. And we're actually going to do, Chris, something on Monday we're releasing through the ACLJ. But of course, we're on President Trump's legal team and work on a lot of these issues. Did the last impeachment in full is a full, basically, memo, which is more like a brief. We're going to send to all the U.S. senators and release it publicly at aclj.org about why this is unconstitutional, why the precedent they even try to cite to in the Democrat House manager's brief, they don't give you the full story. The full story that Secretary of War who was impeached after he resigned, ultimately the Senate acquitted him, not because they thought he wasn't guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors, but because enough senators, that he was 24, said we don't have jurisdiction here. We don't have jurisdiction anymore. So we're not going to go and create this new idea that you can impeach officials who have already left office. In President Trump's case, he didn't have to resign. He just finished his term. He finished his term and he's a private citizen. That letter that went out, Chris, is an abomination. And any good attorney, which I guess Jay Raskin needs a little bit of update on, would never send that out in a criminal trial. That if you don't show up at a criminal trial to defend yourself, you're going to have an inference of guilt. That's not how our process works.
Yeah, let me run something else by you. House lawmakers last night, they voted 230 to 199 to remove Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene from her committee assignments. 11 Republicans voted with Democrat socialists to oust her. Meanwhile, Liz Cheney didn't lose her leadership position because, and she has no support back home, as you well know. But it seems the leadership of the Republican Party says, well, we love Liz Cheney, even though her constituents don't. And even though Liz Cheney went against 95% of the caucus in irresponsibly and ignorantly, to be quite frank, voting to impeach President Trump, she made that vote. What do you make of the GOP establishment throwing their weight completely behind Liz Cheney?
I think it's dangerous. I think it's very dangerous for the base, trying to play both sides. And I'm not trying to say that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Liz Cheney are equal in both sides, but especially trying to play asking President Trump to come out on the campaign trail as Kevin McCarthy has in 2022 and raise money for Republicans. At the same time, backing Liz Cheney, not to be as a congresswoman, but to stay in congressional leadership when she's, assumingly, so far outside of where most congressional leaders, even people like Kevin McCarthy, actually are because of that vote. Now, when you turn it around, this is what I don't like about what happened to Congresswoman Greene. It's not that I agree with a lot of her statements, and she's apologized for a lot of those statements as well, and she did so on the floor of the House. It's what it means for her constituents that elected her. Now they will not have anyone on those committees representing them. And that's a part of being a congressman. You get on these certain committees to help benefit your constituents, and usually you're chosen for ones that make sense for the community that you represent. So it's not just barring her, it's barring her constituents from representation. And that's after she apologized on the floor and said she was wrong about the things I think she was wrong about and went too far on. But it's a double standard to an extent. And again, this is unfortunately what we've come to expect. But I think that there are enough good Republicans speaking out more and more that we're not letting these stories go by without discussion. That's the thing. We're talking about it right now because of Newsmax.
Yeah, I mean, I've found very few of the Republicans. I'm hoping to hear from more. In the meantime, as you know, on social media, Jen Psaki has been caught using a gay slur. She pays no price. An official of the State Department nominated by Mr. Biden said that the nation's cops are a greater threat than ISIS. She gets to stay in her position. It's just the double standard kind of drives me nuts. And it seems that Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy are willing to roll over and accept the double standard. Last thing, Matt Gaetz in his committee, the Judiciary Committee, I believe it was, he wanted to have the Pledge of Allegiance be recited at the beginning of this committee meeting. And Gerald Nadler put his foot down and said there will be no pledging allegiance to the United States of America. What do you make of that?
I just think it just shows you the dichotomy. I mean, we faced Jerry Nadler in the last impeachment, and it is just a different view of what America is all about. And we know that because Chuck Schumer said, if we win these seats in Georgia, if we take this election, we're going to change America. And that's exactly what they're doing. So what he said was, one pledge is enough. Like, that's disgusting to me. And I don't think Matt Gaetz was doing it as a stunt. It was just, let's come together, Pledge of Allegiance, maybe some unity. We're all Americans, something we all believe in doing, something we all do and we did in school every single day. Let's do it together. And yet they politicize it, that this is the new Democratic Party that we're seeing. The far left has taken over even the long-term incumbents like Nadler, like Schumer, because they're scared to death that they're going to get primaried, Schumer by AOC and Nadler by people who are associated with her.
Yep, indeed. Mr. Sekulow, always appreciate talking to you, man. We'll talk again soon.